because my next guest just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs and parties.
Combs' legal team vehemently denied the accusations on his behalf, while the rapper continues to be held in a Brooklyn jail since September, awaiting his May.
The story of Sh Diddy Combs and his mother, Janice, is one of legacy, family ties, and an unconventional upbringing. However, recent whispers suggest that Janice may have played a role in Diddy's ongoing scandals. Rumors claim that the FBI has taken her into custody, accusing her of either orchestrating or enabling actions that have placed Diddy at the center of controversy. The biggest question remains, how much did Janice know, and did she influence her son's choices? This tale is complex, intense, and undeniably shocking.
Well, certainly there's a lot of information that needs to be substantiated, investigated, and those kinds of things. But when we look at people who become offenders, we oftentimes see early exposure to whether that's or actual behavior, and we oftentimes see that within the family.
To understand how we got here, we need to go back to Sh Combs' childhood in Mount Vernon, New York. Raised by a determined single mother, Janice, a former model and teacher's assistant, worked tirelessly to provide for her son after losing her husband, Melvin, in the early 1970s. She did everything to shield him from the harsh realities of their world. However, as new allegations emerge, questions arise about the environment Sean was raised in. Was her protection as effective as she once believed?
That kind of environment growing up in is going to have an impact on a child growing up. Now, it doesn't make excuses for what people do in adulthood, and the form that can take really depends on a lot of different things, including things such as what are the family values? Are the family values about, being open and honest about things, or if there's trauma in a family, do families deal with it, or how is that child?
Insiders and a recent documentary have revealed that Scene's childhood home was not the serene suburban haven it appeared to be. Janice hosted grand, lively gatherings that attracted people from all walks of life, from Harlem streets to the world of wealth and excess. Although young Sh was often kept in another part of the house, the energy and occurrences of these gatherings undoubtedly left a lasting impression on him.
I think another question that we just can't ignore is the role of power. Because one question is, how does somebody become the way they are? And then another question is, how are they allowed to stay the way that they are? And I think that also speaks to this kind of, lack of accountability.
Tim Patterson, a childhood friend of Sh's, shared eye-opening accounts in the Peacock documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. He described the gatherings at Janice's home as far from ordinary. People lounged in various states of undress, music blared, and the atmosphere was one of reckless indulgence. For young Sean and his friends, this was just a typical Saturday night. However, looking back, Patterson now believes these experiences blurred their understanding of acceptable behavior.
Still pretty early in the proceedings. I think it's only been about a month or a month and a half since he's been arraigned and held in detention. And so the investigations are always going to be a continuous and ongoing process. I'm sure at this point there's been an exchange of discovery. And not only that, but I think there's been a gag order placed on the attorneys with information that they can and cannot share. But more importantly,
this environment could be key to understanding Diddy's later lifestyle. The infamous freak-offs described in legal documents appear eerily similar to those early house parties. The same culture of excess, the same mix of personalities, and the same blurred boundaries. While Janice has denied any involvement or influence over her son's choices, the comparisons between her gatherings and Diddy's notorious parties continue to fuel speculation.
Bring another push to free Sean Diddy Combs tonight, with his legal team citing new evidence in an updated bail proposal. The music mogul agreeing to around-the-clock security and cutting out contact with basically anyone but his legal team to get out of jail ahead of his trial scheduled for May of next year for charges he allegedly coerced and abused women for years.
One of Patterson's most striking revelations was the sheer variety of individuals who passed through the Combs household. He recalled how Sean was surrounded by a mix of glamorous socialites and dangerous figures. At times, they stumbled into private rooms and witnessed things no child should see. It suggests that Diddy was exposed to an adult world far too soon, one where boundaries seemed non-existent. Despite Janice's efforts to provide a structured upbringing, including sending him to private school, The duality of Sean's childhood shaped the man he would become.
If he does this new, quote, robust bail package, you can avoid and evade. And he is very connected with people that can help him avoid and evade. I'm not saying he will, but I would be surprised if the court grants him a bond. When the federal government wants you detained, you are normally detained. And here it was a very far-reaching situation that he was in.
Seen has often credited his mother's sacrifices for his success, saying she instilled in him the value of hard work and resilience. However, past interviews hint at a more complex reality. He once recalled how, at just 4 or 5 years old, he craved attention from women, memories that stem from moments when his mother's friends would cradle him on their laps. While he framed these recollections as innocent, critics argue they reveal early exposure to inappropriate adult behaviors.
So remember when I said Diddy mother might be the originator of the freak offs?
Mhm.
All right, so apparently tomorrow there's the Peacock is dropping the Diddy documentary. It's called Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, and the doc gets into Diddy's childhood and his experience growing up in connection to the lawsuit and assault allegations he's currently facing.
The intrigue only deepens. As Scene grew older, he carved his own path, one that mirrored the chaos of his upbringing. Just as Janice's home welcomed a revolving door of personalities, so did Shah's adult life. He built an empire on extravagance and indulgence, but as recent allegations suggest, the line between celebration and exploitation became dangerously blurred.
That's it. If it is privilege, of course they won't. But if it really is what the prosecution says, that has nothing to do with the case, or even worse, it's actually evidence of witness tampering, because we all know the attorney-client privilege, there's a crime fraud exception. You can't use your lawyer to perpetuate a future or continuing fraud or crime. So if the documents are what the government says they are, they're going to get them again. And again, it's just going to be a matter of days, because I don't.
The connection between Janice's rumored arrest and the allegations against Diddy remains unclear. No official confirmation has surfaced regarding her involvement, yet the speculation alone has complicated an already tangled situation. Could Janice have known about the activities taking place at her son's events? Did her own parties unknowingly set the precedent for the behaviors he's now accused of? These questions have fueled the relentless gossip mill.
So there's a few things going on. First is the privilege issue. The judge will decide whether the documents are privileged or not. If they're not, they're going to go to the government. If the documents are not only not privileged, but they're evidence of witness tampering, then a few things can happen, all of which are bad for Sean Diddy Combs. First, of course, it faced obstruction of justice charges in a superseding indictment.
Janice's response to these allegations has been fiercely defensive. She has publicly denounced the accusations against her son, calling them a public lynching and urging people to reserve judgment. While acknowledging that Sean has made mistakes, she has avoided addressing the more damaging claims directly. Critics argue that her statements walk a fine line between unwavering support and outright denial. As new details surface, public scrutiny is shifting toward Diddy's upbringing and its role in shaping his controversial lifestyle.
According to the Rolling Stone, the doc features an alleged childhood friend of Puff's, hip-hop producer Tim Dog Patterson. He alleged that Janice, Diddy's mom, would often throw parties at Diddy's childhood home. He says that during the parties, it wasn't uncommon to walk into rooms where adults was having. That was just.
The long-term effects of Diddy's childhood environment are difficult to quantify, but the similarities between his early years and his adult life are impossible to ignore. Themes of indulgence, blurred boundaries, and excess run through both phases, connecting the boy from Mount Vernon to the mogul now sitting in a Brooklyn detention center. Whether Janice's rumored arrest will reveal any concrete evidence of her involvement remains uncertain, but the speculation alone has already left a mark.
The judge has denied bail for Sean Diddy Combs. Of course, this was the hip-hop mogul's latest bid for freedom as he remains in federal jail for his racketeering and sex trafficking.
The controversy surrounding Scene Diddy Combs isn't just about him. It's about a network of individuals whose roles in his world remain ambiguous. The question isn't only about what Diddy did or didn't do, but also who enabled him, who looked the other way, and who is finally speaking out now that his empire is crumbling. Over the years, Diddy's circle has included childhood friends, business executives, romantic partners, and employees. Were they bystanders, or did they play a role in the behaviors now under scrutiny?
Not buying it all, Kana. And safety can mean a couple of different things. Safety just doesn't mean free from harm of violence. Safety can also too means emotional and mental dynamics that could occur by Sean Combs reaching out to potential witness to get them to.
Then there are those who worked closely with Diddy, former bodyguards, assistants, and even chefs who have come forward with troubling stories. One of the most shocking accounts comes from Roger Bonds, a former bodyguard who claims to have witnessed Diddy's violent temper firsthand. Bonds alleges that he intervened in a situation involving Cassie Ventura to defuse Diddy's aggression. While some former insiders have spoken out, others remain silent, either out of fear of retaliation or due to their own complicity.
Sides in the Sean Diddy Combs case have until today to give answers for how the music mogul has been communicating from jail. Combs appearing in court last Friday seeking bail while he awaits trial. He's been held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn since September.
The lawsuits against Diddy depict a disturbing pattern of manipulation and exploitation. Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend of over a decade, was among the first to file a lawsuit, triggering a wave of allegations. With over 40 civil cases now in motion, prominent attorney Tony Busby describes these claims as part of a decades-long pattern. The allegations span both genders, suggesting a deeply ingrained culture of coercion within Diddy's empire.
The video of Diddy's family arriving to court for last Friday's hearing, prosecutors arguing that he misused prison systems in an attempt to tamper with potential witnesses, and they say they have proof Diddy used other inmates' phone cards or used three-way calls with friends to contact associates that prosecutors consider to be.
Beyond civil lawsuits, criminal charges loom over Diddy, painting a grim picture of his empire. The indictment alleges conspiracy and coercion, serious accusations that could lead to significant prison time. Prosecutors argue that his vast business network functioned as a front for illicit activities, citing the so-called freak-offs as key evidence. Former attendees described these events as elaborate and unsettling, reinforcing claims that they weren't just about luxury but about control.
These claims and is pushing for his release under strict conditions, including a $50 million bond and 24/7 monitoring at a secured Manhattan apartment. There will be a hearing today where both sides will have a chance to clarify exactly how Combs has been connecting with the world outside his jail.
As investigations continue, speculation grows about who else might be entangled in this scandal. Diddy wasn't operating in isolation. His lavish gatherings required coordination, and many insiders now face scrutiny. Reports indicate that certain members of his inner circle may have played an active role in planning these events, while others chose silence. With authorities digging deeper, the extent of their involvement remains to be seen.
Talking about the parties, Tim says, verbatim, that's what we were privy to. This was what we were fed. Was it desensitizing us? I'm sure it was. Were we aware of it? No, that was just Saturday night. In the doc, per Rolling Stone, this type of childhood is alleged to be why Tim, the longtime friend of Diddy's, Puff believes that Puff found himself in the position he is in.
The fallout from these allegations has been swift and severe. Former business associates and close friends are now distancing themselves, eager to avoid being caught in the legal storm. Diddy's once thriving empire, built on extravagance and influence, is rapidly crumbling. The question remains, how much of this will lead to lasting consequences?
You know, if you say the wrong thing or you complain or I don't know, there's an element where you just, I guess manipulated in a way to make you feel like, oh, you have to please everyone around you. You can't say anything wrong. You don't want to say a bad thing, or when they're constantly asking, would you like to do drugs? And you're like, well, I don't do drugs. And they're like, well, why don't you do drugs?
As the trial looms, the legal battle intensifies. Prosecutors are building a case that paints a damning picture, alleging that Diddy's empire wasn't just about music and business, but also served as a cover for illicit activities. The fight for his freedom has only just begun.
The flight was always going to be a tough argument for the government because obviously Combs voluntarily came to New York. He surrendered his passports through his lawyer. He could have fled after the March raids of his Miami and Los Angeles homes, but he didn't. He has access to 2 private jets. I think it was a tougher argument. I know the government made the argument, but clearly the best argument was the dangerousness and the witness tampering. They had much more.
As this situation unfolds, a key question remains: can Diddy's empire survive? Once a dominant force in music, Bad Boy Records has already faded amid new competition. His other ventures in fashion and media now face uncertainty. Allegations have cast a shadow over his brand, leaving its future unclear. For a man who built his career on being larger than life, the possibility of losing it all must be a hard reality to face. But beyond Diddy himself, the most powerful part of this story is the individuals who have come forward. Many have risked everything to share their experiences, sparking a broader conversation about power and accountability. Regardless of the final outcome, their voices have already made a lasting impact, pushing the industry to confront its own complicity in enabling these behaviors.
Is illustrating is this completely out of control party on a super yacht, including various celebrities, that when you read it, it kind of rings true. I mean, when you read it, it doesn't come off as being something that's completely unbelievable. You have to take into consideration that
As the trial date nears, the world waits to see how this unfolds. Will more people speak out? Can Diddy's legal team weaken the prosecution's case? And what happens to those once in his inner circle? These unanswered questions keep the public engaged. For now, all we can do is watch as the next chapter unfolds. The saga of Diddy Combs and his mother Janice raises even more mysteries. How much did Janice really know about her son's lifestyle? Did her influence shape his choices? And did Diddy's upbringing pave the way for his later controversies? The line between celebration and exploitation is blurred, and the public is eager to weigh in. What do you think about Janice's alleged role? Did Diddy's past shape his present? Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for more celebrity news.